Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Express, which is becoming everyone's favorite talk show. It is profoundly real and interesting, so without any further delay, please help me welcome back to the stage the beautiful and expressive director of Express, Carolyn. Carolyn, take it away.
Welcome to Express. I'm your host, Carolyn. It is so great to come back here and to see you all again. Today, we have for our guests today is Mark Gray. Just hold on to your seats and just wait. Before I tell you a little bit about him, let me ask you, please, to remember to touch share, like, and to subscribe. For those who have been following us, thank you for doing so. But for those who may have just stopped by, just want to remind you to do that. Okay, so let's talk about Mark now, my guest who will be coming in a minute. Mark, in 2000, he produced the short film 30 Pieces of Glass Staring Sarah Jane Steed. In 2004, he produced the 1 hour pilot for a drama series, One Hope Street, for which he won Best International Film at the Sun Screen Film Festival in Los Angeles. He went on to write Attitude, a short drama looking at the struggle of a gay man trying to come to faith, but being ostracized by the church community, and returned to Los Angeles, where he won Best Film for The Holy Hush again at Sunscreen Film Festival. In 2009, he wrote True's Life, a youth project warning young people of the dangers of gang mentality. Then followed it with a film for the Virgin Media short film project, Take Me Home. In 2013, Mark completed his first featured film, Three Women. It's a powerful yet touching character driven drama examining the lives of three desperate women who battled domestic violence. The glass ceiling and street gang culture as they strive to gain respect for their peers, families, and employers in urban London. Three Women, starring Judith Jacob, was based on his stage play of the same name and is currently available on Amazon Prime. In 2016, Mark wrote and directed The Convert, a short film looking at the value, truth, purity, forgiveness, and faith when a clergyman tried to convince a prostitute to drop charges against his son accused of sexual assault. Mark studied writing for stage and screen with Screenwise International and Total Filmmaking Workshop with the LA Film School. He has also written three drama series for radio. He was awarded Best International Entry Sunscreen Film Festival Los Angeles and Best Drama Sunscreen Film Festival Los Angeles Theater. Mark has been writing for the stage for over 35 years, with his first play, The Loser, staged at Brixton Village and being declared a winner by the Voice newspaper and led to a sellout performance at the Green Belt Festival in 1990. His follow up play, The First Stone, was performed as part of the First Floor Theatre Festival at the Palace Theatre, Westminster, in 1990 and was the second most successful play ever at the first floor. Mark went on to write Don't Cry, Little Tree, Downward Spiral, and Behind the Mask, which was performed on the London Fringe and also at the Base Theatre in Birmingham. In 1996, Mark produced and directed his first musical Redemption Song. He also wrote the book for the musical and executive produced the cast CD. Redemption Song sold out on the London Fringe before touring the Edinburgh Festival in 1997 and an eight-city tour of England in 1998. This was followed by two performances in the Netherlands in 1999. Redemption Song was well received, prompting the press to write unparalleled voices, unparalleled songs, beautifully sung, highly infectious, and truly joyous and uplifting. After a spell working on film, Mark returned to the stage with Thou Shalt Not at the Greenwich Playhouse, Oxford House, Pumped House Theatre, and Tobacco Factory and Fairfield Halls. The Kentish Times wrote, intense and engaging piece, a well written, well acted drama. Theatre's great secret is out, Mark Gray, is one of London's best kept secrets. A strong cast, a well written script, and intensity brought about by the quality of the acting. You are actually in the room with them, gaining an insight into their minds. A striking performance from Ellen um, Gale Harewood that appealingly draws out the contradiction of the character. When no one is watching, take a hard look at fate and hypocrisy, and was performed at Watford Palace Theatre and the Greenwich Playhouse in 2010. In 2015, Mark assembled an exciting cast to perform as Asylum, a piece documenting the story of three women who believed they were in prison, but as the story unfolds, that's Asylum, we realize they are only imprisoned in their minds. Asylum was performed in a short run at the Waterloo East Theatre for a series of four sell-out performances. In 2017, Asylum played to sell-out audience at the Courtyard Theatre as the first part of the Restoration trilogy. The second part of the trilogy, Healed, was played at Omnibus Theatre, Clapton 3rd and 8th of April 2018. And the final part, End the Silence, opened to great views in August 2018. In 2019, Asylum and End the Silence was performed at the National Black Theatre, Harlem, as part of the Tri State Tour of the USA. In 2021, following the pandemic, Wild Rush, The Betrayal ran for 7 nights to sold out audience at the Union Theatre in Southwark. Amelia, gentleman of the Guardian newspaper, whose work on exposing the government's shameful hostile environment policy, was in attendance and wrote, it's an amazing play. It's really a powerful play. In 2022, the Arts Council England sponsored a 4-city tour of Windrush, the betrayal to London, Birmingham, Liverpool, and Watford, where it once now achieved excellent review from the press and audience alike. There are current plans to tour again to to further four cities. In April 2023, Mark's new play, Don't Clap for Me, Mr. Johnson, will open at the Cockpit in London before moving on to the Crescent Theatre in Birmingham in May. Reviews for the Windrush, The Betrayal. It's an amazing play. It really is a powerful play, said by Amelia Gentleman, The Guardian. Stunning theatre, gripping performance, evocative and compelling by La Vida Liverpool. An excellent piece of work. The cast perform with their hearts as well as their minds. We must thank all the cast. David Lamry's speech, recreated here by, by Joseph Quansom, was epic. See it and weep. Review for the to End the Silence. This is the review for End the Silence. A very interesting and entertaining show. The acting was uniformly excellent. One of the standout being Leah Harrison, played with the right amount of arrogance, charm, and menace by Joe Quanson. The play had me laughing, shaking my head, and feeling sorrow and anger. Lovers of Black theatre. It's a very good play. Thought provoking, sorry, and well worth seeing. This was said by the film producer. And the silence is emotionally and intellectually engaging, a must see for men, women, and teenagers. This was said by H.E. Seth George Ramagan, Jamaican High Commissioner. A wonderful show. The writing is superb by Elite Management. Ladies and gentlemen, why did I choose to go through all of that? I could have paraphrased it. But Mark Gray he's such a humble person. You would never know that he's done all of this. I didn't know that. So you need to hear before he comes out that he's not an ordinary person. He's very, very humble, and you see him is unassuming. But let us meet him now. Come on in, Mark, to the studio.
Okay, hello, hello.
And
Can you
I
hear me?
wish I had an audience to Mark, let me tell you, when I first read this bio, I I thought about part, but I said no, I will not add and I will not subtract. Let me say something here. Do you remember when in England, when I was there and you were there, they had this show about This Is Your Life? Do you remember it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Mark, I used to love that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe this is why this came about. But when I was reading that, again, I said, This is your life. I am tired of hearing about people's accomplishment when you go to a funeral. I don't like that. I
Mm-hmm.
want to lift people up when they are alive, lift them up, thank them, appreciate them when they can say thank you and when they can enjoy it. Don't you agree?
I 100% I agree.
Yes. So
100%.
thank you so much for being here. You have accomplished so much. Forgive me if, I did not flow with the reading as much as I should have, but the main idea, I'm sure others got it.
No, that's fine. And there's still much more to do. I mean, um, yeah, there's so much more that I could have done or would have liked to have done, and I'm not finished yet. But um, as as much as the Lord will allow me to do, then I'm happy to do.
Yes. And I know he's going to allow you to, because you have humility. God loves. In Proverbs, don't remember exactly where now, but he said, humble yourself and he will lift you up. That's one of my
Mm.
favorite texts. And I know he will lift you up. He's already lifted, but you have so much where to go. So, all right, then. So, we're just going to really talk about where you were born and just a little bit about your life and what really inspired you to get this far. What is giving you that push? What when you have challenges, which I'm sure you're going to tell us some of the challenges you've had, what keeps you going? All right, let's start from, where are you from? Where were you
Well,
born?
I was born in London. I was born in
Okay.
Southeast London in 1961. I was born in
Mm.
Southeast London, and um, I, I was always a creative person, but more, just for fun, just little things that with my cousins that lived in the house, we'd make up little stories and act them out together. Just play, just game playing. In those days, there was no Xbox and all of that, so you made your own fun. So we would do do that kind of thing. I went off to Jamaica when I was 13, and that was a drama in itself. But it did open my eyes to see um, a whole new way of looking at the world, and I was quite pleased with the fact that the college that I went to out there was an international school. So I got to meet people from all over the world that I would never have had the opportunity to meet.
Mhm, mhm. That's where I
So
met you, right?
yes, yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
I met people from um, Argentina, from Panama, from the States, from Canada,
Mamas,
from
yeah.
Nigeria, from you um, Ghana,
Mhm.
from South Africa,
Yes.
England, all over, and it was beautiful. And of course, all the different people from different parts of Jamaica,
Yes.
with their own different idiosyncrasies. So that whole melting pot um, served as a great lesson for me, or a great learning ground for me, and stimulated my creativity.
Mm.
When I came back in 2021, I came back in 2021 and just wrote some things. I think the first thing I wrote was, it was actually at church. I was asked to just put something together for Youth Day, not because I was a great known as a great playwright or anything, but just in terms of working with the youth.
Mhm.
I did that, but what happened then? The whole excitement and furore that came out of the performance, I started then to write for the theatre, and then I went off to study it. And as you read from my CV there, then I started to put things on in theatres, and it just grew from there. So that's kind of my journey to now. I've had many knockbacks, and many wrong turns and many brick walls, but because I actually have a passion for it. Whenever I hit a brick wall, I just turn around and go and try and find another route. So there are many people that will probably tell you that they would have got to where I am a lot quicker. Um, but yes, but I'm just continuing with my journey, doing the bits that I can, and telling the stories that I can. And I like to tell stories of usually about the human condition. Most of my stories will have some kind of moral tale,
Mhm.
but they're usually character based about the human condition, and then to explore why we as humans behave the way we do. Is that the ideal way? Is that the way that will bring us together or tear us apart? It's that those are the types of things that I like to do. I gravitate towards.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, and you talk about a lot. I notice the topics that you bring up, things that people maybe wouldn't want to talk about, you know. Um,
Yeah, I've been told that. I've been
yeah,
told
it is, and that's what makes it so interesting,
that
because
it
people
stimulates
are,
discussion.
yeah, people are identifying with it in and won't say.
Yes,
But then
yes,
when you bring it out that way, then you find people gravitate to it because they want to see how you how this play or this film or whatever
yes,
is portraying that thought,
yes,
you know.
yes.
Mm. You mentioned about wrong turns or brick walls. What's some of the wrong turns or brick walls would you
Well,
say that would have stopped you and you kept going?
yeah, it's when you speak to some of the governing bodies here, and they say, let's say they say, in order to get funding, you must have these four things,
Hmm.
whatever they might be, and then you go away and you take time to get those four things, and then
Okay.
you come back, and then it's still not good enough, you know,
Oh.
that kind of thing, or people promising um, to work with you on a project if you bring certain elements in, and you do that, and then by the time when you go back to them, they're falling by the wayside. So
Yes.
and then some of the creative decisions that I've made haven't been fruitful, or haven't been the right at the right time. um you know Sometimes you have different creative differences with different members of the cast, different producers or venues, etc. So it's just that whole walk of life, that whole journey,
Mm.
because you're always having to collaborate in situations where
Different
uh,
personalities and
and work with different personalities.
mhm, mhm.
It's not always going smoothly.
Yes, yes, yes. I imagine they love to work with you, whoever decides to work with you, because I see you. Never work with you in that aspect, but um, I can imagine that you knowing what you know with your experience, you are very open and lenient with who you work with the ideas they may give. Or I just see you, if somebody say, oh, why could we do it this way, and if you see it's a reasonable suggestion, that you would go with it.
um, there's yes, there's a hierarchy. You can't create a play or a film in a democracy.
Mm,
So if you want a create if you're in a room with five creative actors,
right.
and you open the door, all five will pull you in five different directions.
Yes, and then yes, yes,
So
understand that.
so you come with a singular vision, but what is very good is that when they are working through your vision, if they hit a brick wall and can't see their way through your vision, then if they then say, suppose we did this, or suppose we did that, that would help me achieve the goal that you want.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes,
um
yes.
so they say, okay, I see what you're trying to get, but I can't go that route to it. I have to, suppose I try and go this way and
Yes,
get there, then
eventually.
then then
Yes.
yeah, then you're open to that, because then you still get the best out of your act.
Yes, yes. You get them to take part and you
Yeah,
still get to where you still wanted to get to.
yes.
Yes, yeah. That's interesting. Yes, yes. Yes. So any other you wanted to say? Any other brick walls
um,
or wrong
it's
turn?
I don't like to talk too much about the negatives, but
No,
it's
you
the
know why?
main
You
it's
know
the
why we're
main
doing that now? So that others who would want to do what you're doing, they see you here, they see how accomplished you have, how much you have accomplished. You have to let them know, and I understand, let them know, listen, it's wasn't so easy because so and so and so. Give them an idea. That's why
well.
you're mentioning it.
No, okay. No, what I'll say is that
Mm,
um, in on that side of it, that creativity is very subjective. So just like how I said about the actors,
mm,
when you're in a creative space, everybody has an opinion and a dream. So you must be focused and single minded on yours,
Mhm.
or else you will be pulled
Pulled
all
away.
over.
Yes, 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 yes.
So you have to really, and then once you've got this dream, you know what it is, then no matter how many people tell you that your dream is not worth it, you keep going because you'll get the negative things all over. Do you
Mhm.
know that I read a an article about Steven Spielberg about a year or two ago,
Mhm.
and we know him as probably one of the most famous directors there are.
Yeah.
And he said, "Yeah, studios give me lots of money to make films, but he made a film that he wanted to make from his own heart." And he said it took him 20 years to get it together. Now, we would say Steven Spielberg would just walk into any studio and say, "Give me what I want."
Mhm.
But even with that little project, him being Steven Spielberg, he was meeting people saying, "No, no, no, don't make that film that you want. Make this big film that I want and make lots of money." And he
Mhm.
did, and he would make the money. He said, "Now can I have this little money?" No. So, so the only way that I can talk about pitfalls is that you will forever come up with people that think that your project is not going to be any good. But as soon as it is successful, they will tell you, "I knew it was going to be successful." You get that a lot. There'll be people that you ask to work with, that them to work with you on a project. They say, "No, I don't think it's going to be any good." When it is successful, they come back to you and say, "Can I work with you on your next project?" That is just the nature of man. And so, what I would say is that to anybody listening, that be single minded in that if you've got a dream and a goal, that no matter what people say about putting you off, keep going. And I have taken the long route because every time I hit a brick wall, I turned around and I tried to go another way. And some people who might not hit those brick walls and they might sail through. And some people might even take longer than me, and that's fine too, because it's really about serving your ambition and your dream. And if you can do that and you're happy doing that, then it doesn't matter how long it takes,
How
just
it
keep going.
takes. Exactly. Exactly. Great. Great. Now, I'm going to ask you a really, 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 really funny question right now. Out of all the films, all of your work that you've done, which one is your baby, 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 baby one?
Well, I have been asked that sort of question before, and
Yes.
and my answer is always the same. When you go to a mother with 7 children, you can't ask her which is her favorite.
That's a
So
good way of answering, Mark.
yeah, you have all these children. You might say this one is more naughty than that one, or
Mhm.
this one is lazy than that one, or this one has more ambition than that one. But you ask a mother which one she loves more. You know, they're all her
She's
children. She
getting
loves
good
them
trouble,
all.
right? It's all our trouble, all our
Yeah,
children. She felt the
yeah,
pain for.
yeah. Uh, One thing that happened recently is, and I was quite pleased. I laughed when the man said it, but I'm actually quite pleased with it. Um, my last play that was on was Windrush: The Betrayal, and a guy came, a friend of mine that he's not a buddy, but I know him well.
Yes.
But he's not a guy that I hang out with, you know.
Right, right.
Um, so I probably only really see him at shows or whatever. So I invited him. He came along, and I said, "So did you enjoy it?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "This is your best one." And I smiled because I said, "But the last time you came last year, you said that was my best one."
Mhm.
Uh, and that's about the third time he's told me that, which in a way is encouraging because it means that
You're not.
as far as he's concerned, the work is improving each time.
Yes,
So
yes,
I
yes.
wouldn't want to say that my last one was my best one or my favorite one, but I'm pleased that in a different way, every time I come with something, it touches the audience in a different way and in
Mhm.
a way that resonates with them. And that's all I think you can hope for if you're a writer.
Yes. And I was going to ask that you elaborate on the Windruff, the betrayal, and I really would like you to, because just in case anyone hasn't watched it yet, they maybe can go in detail and go look at it. Explain what it's all about.
Okay, Windrush the Betrayal is essentially about the government of England after the war invited people from the Caribbean, from the Commonwealth, which was
Hmm.
mainly the Caribbean that they went to, but they also involved some countries in Africa. They invited the people from the Caribbean to come over and rebuild England because they were devastated by the war with Germany.
Hmm.
So the place was mashed up, and there were jobs to rebuild that the English people that were here did not want. So they came and they got people to come over from the Caribbean, and they came over and they were British subjects. Now, fast forward to 2012, the government decided that migration numbers were too high and they were wanting to get the numbers down. So, to frighten the people, they said that all the people who could not prove that they had entered the country legally would be deported. So, the people that came over from the war, a lot of them had died,
Hmm.
but their children who came over with them at 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever,
Hmm.
4, when they came, they just came, they went to
Mom and dad.
school, they
Hmm.
lived, went to school, they were legal British subjects. But because they couldn't then show the government their papers to say this was the stamp because their parents took care of it,
Hmm.
as far as the parents are concerned, we're all British. So they never had to say, look after this.
Hmm.
They were being deported, arrested, um, and that was the scandal that was exposed by a journalist in England, and she wrote a book on it. They actually made TV shows about it because the government then had to apologize because it got exposed. It
Hmm.
was trying to do it, but it is, and they're still trying to do it actually. So
Hmm.
even though they apologized and said we'll stop, they haven't stopped. It's still going on, and they're
Hmm.
deporting people and whatever just because they want to get the migration numbers down. So
Hmm.
that legal British subjects are being deported. That's what it was.
Was okay. So I guess that was, what you did, that because that was such a very interesting point, that you situation that was happening, that you sort of brought out with that.
Hmm.
So okay. All right. What about, you have a son?
Yes, I have two sons.
Two sons. Okay. I think
Hmm.
I only met one.
Yeah, you met one. Well, the eldest one has never lived with me.
Yeah.
So you met the second one. Um, well, in New York, you must have met him in New York
Yeah, I
then.
met him in New
When,
York.
when we came over and did the
Yes,
play. Yes,
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 yes.
yes, yes,
So
yes.
I
He,
notice he's standing by daddy.
he
Is he walking
also
in his footprints?
he also writes. He's been commissioned by a couple of theaters to write pieces for them. So
Okay.
he's written a couple of pieces for theaters. I went to see some of his work in a festival last week. But
Oh,
yeah. He's doing okay with it. He's doing
that's
okay
good.
with it. He loves
That's
it
good.
too. He
That's
studied
good.
journalism
Yes.
and he's worked as a journalist and also he's writing.
Okay. Okay. So we're coming to the end of the conversation.
Okay.
Is there anything that came to your mind, knowing why you're here? You're here to, we tell you little snaps of your life. But before you go, I'd like you to say in a sentence or two, or tips, if you know someone is looking and really they have this talent of maybe doing what you're doing, but they just don't know where to turn, they don't know how to start. Can you give some suggestions of how
Yes,
they can
actually,
take baby steps?
yes, and which actually will bring me back to when you was asking me about brick walls and I couldn't
Mhm.
think of anything specific that I could share. I will actually tell you one thing that I would say to them is You want to do it, go and study how to do it properly.
Okay.
Don't just do it because, yeah, I'm creative. Everybody thinks that they are a great writer. If they
Mm,
have an idea, they then think that they can write it.
mm,
But you can have a brilliant idea and don't know how to write it.
mm.
And why that comes to mind is that, as I told you, after I started, I hadn't gone off to study yet, but I wrote a film script. And just by chance, I met one of the leading agents in Hollywood.
Mm.
And he said, okay. I told him about it. He said, okay, show it to me. Now, when I showed it to him, he says, oh, a good idea, a good story, but you obviously haven't learned how to structure it properly for an agent. So he said, so go and learn that. And then he was gone. Of course,
Mm.
by the time I learned that, did the studies, and went tried to find him,
Again, you
he
could
in his career had moved on
stop.
so much that
Okay.
I couldn't get hold of him again. I could never get into a room with him again.
Okay.
And I use that whenever I'm mentoring or talking to young people now. I use that story that you must always do your homework, always prepare.
Mm,
Don't think, oh, this will be good enough. Mediocrity is
that's true.
not not acceptable. Make sure that you always make it as good as it can be,
Mm.
and tomorrow it could be better, but
Right.
as it can be for now, because that might be budget, or it
Hmm.
might be your experience, or whatever. But make sure that it's always, don't shortchange yourself, and then your work will attract people.
People.
And
Yeah.
don't be afraid to start small. I started
Yes.
in very, very small theaters. In fact, I still perform in very, very small theaters. But you don't have to worry about what the other guy's doing who
Mm,
is being sponsored by the multimillionaire. If
mm.
your work is good, they have an expression in England that cream always rises to the top.
Yes. True.
So,
True.
so just make it as good as it can be, and don't worry about the time. Just keep going, make it as good as it can be, and move on to the next thing.
Yes. That's good advice, Mark. Very, very good advice. Yeah, because people think, oh, I don't have the money. Da 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 da.
And
There's
do it
so
small.
much knowledge out there. You can go on YouTube. You can listen, watch things. You can learn. And like myself, I most times I just start things. I just the inside me just pushes me until I
Yeah,
get better and better and better, and until hopefully we'll get
yeah.
there exactly where you want to be. Well, Mark, it was a pleasure. It is a pleasure of having you
No,
here
thank you. Thank you very
today.
much for having me.
I remember when we first met in Jamaica.
Yeah,
Boy, I tell you, life, right?
yeah, yeah,
You've
yeah.
been a good person. You've really been, really, really been a good person. And if I call you on or text you, you always respond. Yes, and that's how it is. You move up, but you still remember where you're coming from. And
Yeah.
that's what you are. Thank you so much.
No,
And
it's been my
all the
pleasure.
best, and we'll keep in touch. Oh, you gotta talk about the most recent film that you have coming up in May. April, May.
Okay, yeah,
Please
no, so
do.
that's not a film. The one coming up in May is a theatre piece.
Theater piece. Okay.
So we're going to do a piece in the theatre in London,
Mm-hmm.
the Cockpit Theatre, called "Don't Clap for Me, Mr.
You mean
Johnson."
Mr. Johnson, right?
So that is essentially about the nurses during the pandemic. In our
Mm.
pandemic, the nurses were
Listen, guys, listen. You gotta go watch it.
if you're in London, come and see it.
Yes.
The nurses um, got us through the pandemic. They were dying in the hospitals. They had no PPE, they had no protection, and they were catching COVID from the patients.
Mm.
And the government would not pay them um, any pay rise. They said we're in hard times. They wouldn't pay them. They were suffering. They were working around the clock. So what the government said, and that was our Prime Minister, Mr. Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
said every Thursday we will clap for you at 8 o'clock.
Oh dear.
So my piece is about these nurses that are suffering
Oh,
and
so Mr.
dying,
Jackson.
and they're saying, "Don't clap for me because I'm suffering and dying, and your applause."
Oh
doesn't help.
Lord. Oh boy.
So that's where that one comes
That
from.
is so original.
So yeah, that's at the
So
Cockpit
original.
Theatre, the 20th to the 23rd of April in
Yes.
London.
Yes.
Anybody's there, come and have a see, have a
Yeah.
look at it.
We're gonna have all the information as you see the information going across the screen. Thank you so much, Mark. Thanks again.
My pleasure.
Bye.
My
All
pleasure.
the best.
All
Okay.
right. Bye bye.
Good,
Bye
good.
bye.
Bye bye. Well, wasn't it great talking to such a humble and progressive person? As usual, I always leave a thought for the day. And my thought today, it reads, the problem with dreams is that they are always futuristic and gives a deceptive impression that there is still enough time to actualize them. The tragedy, however, is that you soon realize that the time you thought you had to fulfill the dream had melted away before your very, very eyes. This was a part of an article from Sunday Adija and our book, How to Become Great Through Time Conservation. Are you wasting time, spending time, or investing time? And there's another thought here by Hilrod Majda. Be outrageously ridiculous when it comes to your dream. They don't have to make sense. They should look unfathomable and shake your very foundation so that you dive all in it with all that you have until it rises in your reality. Those are wonderful, aren't they? It was so good to be here today. Thank you so much for stopping by. Again, don't delay to like, share, or to subscribe. In that case, you won't be lacking. You won't lose out on an interview like what just happened. Again, thank you for those who follow Express, and thank you for those who just stopped by today. Visit us. You will learn something to help you on your life's journey.